Chapter 81 Shui Yueer, My Sister and I Seem to Be. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Edited content, Chapter 81 Shui Yueer, My Sister and I Seem to Be the Same. We both ate grass jelly. How come you two leveled up faster than me? Shui Yueer complained. She remembered that a year and a half ago, when the Soul Master competition began, both she and Mu Yang were level 25 Great Soul Masters, and her sister, Shui Bing'er, was a level 33 Soul Master. Then she consumed Narcissus Jade Muscle and Bone, which increased her soul power by almost 8 levels. Now she's a level 43 Soul Sect, while her sister is already at the peak of level 49, about to break through level 50. Once her sister advances to a 5th ring Soul King, her soul power will jump 2 levels to level 52. The difference in soul power between them would be 9 levels. It's even worse than the original 8 levels, and this is after 2 significant upgrades. Isn't it supposed to be that the further a soul master progresses, the slower their training becomes, and the initial gap narrows due to the increased difficulty of leveling up? Why did it widen even further? Besides, it's one thing to not be able to compare with her sister, but why does Mu Yang have to catch up too? Mu Yang is currently at level 40, and his 3rd soul ring is 10,000 years old. That means his 4th soul ring will be even older. After advancement, he's guaranteed to reach level 42, and most likely even level 43, and Mu Yang already took the fairy herb. According to what she learned from him, you can't take more of it. So he can't just cheat by taking another fairy herb. They both started at level 25. She consumed Narcissus Jade Muscle and Bone to increase her soul power by almost 8 levels. Even if she should have been able to catch up, was she just too useless? Or is Mu Yang just abnormal? What Shui Yueer didn't know was that although Mu Yang couldn't take another fairy herb, he had also cheated and secretly refined 100,000-year soul bone, skyrocketing 5 levels. Otherwise, there was no way he could have caught up with her in such a short time, given that she also took a fairy herb. Only Shui Bing'er knew about this. Even Shui Yueer wasn't fully aware. Shui Yueer could tell something was up with Mu Yang. His soul power had increased significantly in a short period of time, but it was clearly a personal secret, and she wouldn't pry. Of course, it doesn't mean Mu Yang cultivated a full 3 levels more than Shui Yueer in the same period. To be precise, it's closer to 1 level. After all, while fairy herbs are powerful, there's always a limit. The improvement to Mu Yang's cultivation talent from star anise ice grass and fiery apricot jiaoshu is actually less than the improvement to Shui Yueer's cultivation talent from Narcissus Jade Muscle and Bone. It's like giving Ning Fengji 100 million gold soul coins. He'd still be the same Ning Fengji who spends money like water. Not much would change, because he's already loaded, but if you gave Bai He that much money, he'd immediately become rich. From then on, he could live a happy life like Ning Fengji. The main reason Mu Yang closed the 3-level gap caused by external objects was the age of the soul rings he added when he advanced. Shui Yueer's 3rd soul ring was around 5,000 years old, and her 4th was around 10,000. That only increased her soul power by about 2 levels. When Mu Yang advanced to a 3-ring soul master and then a 4-ring soul sect, his ability to withstand older soul rings allowed him to increase his soul power by about 3 levels each time. Just 2 soul rings could close the difference. Shui Yueer's 4th soul ring is also 10,000 years old. Whale gum can only improve physical fitness. It's not enough on its own, but Mu Yang taught her Taiyin God refining. Because Shui Yueer was only a sister-in-law, a quasi-sister-in-law, Mu Yang only gave her the first 2 levels of Taiyin God refining. It improved her mental power to the level of a level 60 soul master. As soon as Shui Yueer finished speaking, Shui Bing'er looked astonished and reached out to touch Shui Yueer's forehead. Sis, what are you doing? Shui Yueer resisted. You don't have a fever, do you? Shui Bing'er's eyes were confused. Shui Yueer. She was fine. How could she have a fever? Besides, with Mu Yang around, if she got sick, wouldn't he just use topaz detoxifying ginseng? Don't be dissatisfied. You're only 13 years old. You've cultivated to level 43. What else could you want? Shui Bing'er tapped Shui Yueer's head, scolding her like an elder. reaching level 43 at 13 is something even the greatest geniuses with full innate soul power couldn't do. How could her sister despise her cultivation speed compared to her and Mu Yang? People are greedy. Once they have the good life they dreamed of, they want an even better life. Okay, so I look worse than you and Mu Yang, sister. You're the best. Shui Yueer lowered her head, held Shui Bing'er's arm, and said coaxingly. Yue'er, am I not good? Mu Yang asked. Brother-in-law, you're the best too. Remembering that the Narcissus jade muscle and bone were a huge contribution to her current achievements, given to her by Mu Yang, Shui Yueer said without hesitation. Bing'er is the best, and I'm the best, so which one of us is the best? Mu Yang asked with a smile. Well, brother-in-law, you're the best. After hesitating, Shui Yueer leaned toward Mu Yang. There was no getting around it. That Narcissus jade muscle and bone was too tempting. If her sister hadn't made the first move, she might have said yes to him already. After all, Mu Yang is handsome, talented, and kind to her. No, not might, definitely. My aunt and my mother are both my father's wives, so are my sister and I the same. Bad, bad, bad. Mu Yang belongs to my sister. I can't think like that. Shui Yueer cursed herself. She told herself not to think like that, but the strange thought took root in her mind. Shui Bing'er, unable to read minds, didn't know what Shui Yueer was thinking. She rolled her eyes and said angrily, Yue'er, it seems my sister's love is wasted on you. There's nothing wrong with Mu Yang, but it sounds so annoying. Her sister is hopeless. Someone should hurry and take her away. Mu Yang stepped forward and took Shui Bing'er's hand. He turned to Shui Yueer and said, Yue'er, here's how you should answer the question, whether we're sister or brother-in-law, it's all the best, because Bing'er and I are one and the same. Shui Bing'er's eyes immediately sparkled. Shui Yueer. Here comes the PDA. Early the next morning, Shui Yueer took Mu Yang and Shui Bing'er in a carriage to hunt for souls in the Star Do forest in the middle of the continent. They were going to get Mu Yang his fourth soul ring and help Shui Bing'er break through the bottleneck at level 49. Due to Mu Yang's ability to withstand older soul rings, his fourth one could be about 30,000 years old. Although the Sunset Forest is known as one of the three major soul beast gathering places, it's much smaller than the Star Do forest in the far north, and the soul beasts living there aren't as strong. A 30,000-year-old soul beast isn't exactly high level, but there aren't many in the Sunset Forest. Generally, soul masters who go to Sunset Forest to hunt and advance don't exceed level 50. The sixth soul ring is best around 20,000 years old. When soul power reaches level 60, few soul masters go to the Sunset Forest to hunt and advance. Soul masters at that level prefer the Star Do forest. The Sunset Forest doesn't have as many species. You might not find a soul beast that's 20,000 years old or older that suits your needs, so, this time they went to the Star Do forest, which is further away, instead of the Sunset Forest, which is closer to Qianren Academy. After riding in a carriage for over 10 days, as night was falling, they arrived at the soul-hunting town on the outskirts of the Star Forest. Getting out of the carriage and glancing at the town ahead, Shui Yueer turned to Mu Yang and Shui Bing'er and said, Xiaoyang. Bing'er, let's rest in town tonight and go into the forest tomorrow. Okay. Mu Yang and Shui Bing'er nodded. Riding in a carriage for over 10 days was tiring, even for soul masters. And it was late. They should rest first so they have energy in the forest. Let's find a place to stay first. Shui Yueer led the way toward the town, followed by Mu Yang and the others. Entering the town, Mu Yang found it was livelier than he expected. It wasn't big, and it didn't have city walls, but it looked like a small town. Shops lined the streets. Most of the shops catered to soul masters, with accommodations, food, weapons, armor, detoxification and recovery potions, and adventure clothing with many pockets for holding sundries. Soul masters need weapons and armor. High-level soul masters don't, but low-level ones do. Well-made armor is like an extra defensive soul skill that doesn't use soul power. It's just a little tiring to wear. Thanks to my friends 20220218192854904 and Star Fantasy Dream Dragon for their monthly votes. Thanks to my friends 202206061636325572, 20210301106582630634, Blue Soul, Cold Wind and Cloud, and Star Fantasy Dream Dragon for their recommendation votes. Chapter 82, One-Sided Love is Not Good. You are listening at NovelFull.audio. Even with the discovery of rare metals, really good armor still has its uses. For instance, the armor they sell in these shops, aimed at soul masters, includes some rare metals, so even if it's not top of the line, the defense is way better than regular armor. Potions, though. Don't get your hopes up. Detox potions, for example, are basically just juice squeezed from detoxifying herbs. They're not something a real alchemist from another fantasy world would make. At best, they'll neutralize the toxins from common poisons or weak poisonous soul beasts, because they can't produce anything truly advanced. Blacksmiths and pharmacists aren't exactly highly regarded on Douluo continent. Blacksmithing's got a future, though. When soul guide tech takes off, especially with the rise of battle armor, forgers are gonna be in high demand. Pharmacists, on the other hand, are pretty much out of luck here. The best medicinal herbs on Douluo are plant-based soul beasts, and those things take forever to grow. Alchemists in other worlds gather their high-level ingredients, but here, they're using herbs their great-grandfathers planted. After finally scrounging up a batch of stuff for a high-level elixir, they screw it up because they aren't skilled enough. All that work down the drain. It'd be a miracle if they ever improved. Okay, that's a bit of an exaggeration. There will still be alchemists later on, but limited resources mean only a few will benefit and it won't become mainstream. They definitely won't have the status of soul masters or battle armor forgers. Soon after, the three of them checked into a hotel that wasn't fancy, but seemed clean. It was spread out, but only 2 stories high. The first floor was a big restaurant, and the second was all rooms. At the front desk, Shui Yueer asked the clerk for a single and a double. Keys in hand, they found an empty table in the corner of the lobby and sat down. They ordered some food, then chatted while they waited. Night had fallen, and the restaurant was buzzing, maybe 70 or 80% full. Suddenly, Mu Yang noticed the room go quiet. He turned and saw 3 figures walk in. First was a tall woman in a veil and a white hooded robe. A few strands of blonde hair peeked out. The other 2 wore black robes and hoods, faces hidden. One was tall and lanky, the other short and stocky. Even without sensing their soul power, the blonde and her bodyguards gave off a powerful vibe, the kind you get from someone in charge or someone with serious strength. That's why the other diners stopped talking and stared. "Young master, would you like to eat?" That at the front desk, the lanky bodyguard got 3 rooms, then spoke to the blonde. "No." She shook her head slightly, took her key, and headed straight upstairs. The bodyguards exchanged a look and followed. "Young master." Mu Yang raised an eyebrow. Not many people on Douluo get called young master, especially women. Combined with the power he sensed, he quickly figured out who she was. If he had to bet, that was Qianren Xuefeng, the young master of the Spirit Hall. And those were her 2 bodyguards from when she was undercover in the Heaven Do Empire, Snake Spear Douluo Shilong and Thorny Porpoise Douluo Xuefeng. As the Spirit Hall's top spy, Qianren Xuefeng showing up in Soul Hunting Town probably meant she was here for soul rings to level up. Since the Heaven Do coup in the original story was still 8 or 9 years away, and she was a 7-ring soul saint then, she was probably not at level 70 yet, and if she were level 50, she wouldn't travel all the way to the Star Do Great Forest. She could just go to Sunset Forest, close to Heaven Do City. After all, the best 5th soul ring is only about 10,000 years old. Even with whale glue boosting her, she probably maxed out at 20,000 years. There are plenty of soul beasts like that in Sunset Forest, so, Qianren Xuefeng, around 20 years old now, was probably a level 60 soul emperor. Or had she just finished hunting in the Star Do Great Forest? Yeah, that made sense. Even undercover, her training would have been delayed. There probably wasn't a good training area for her 6-winged angel martial spirit, but she was talented. Innate level 20 soul power would make level 60 no problem. What a shame. Thinking of her ending in the original novel, Mu Yang sighed, but it was just a pity. There are so many people to feel bad for. Besides, her grandfather, DouluoDalu, had it worse. Spreading the angel god's glory was his dream. He gave up centuries of life to pave the way for her to become a god. His dream came true, but he didn't know that the glory he thought would last forever was fleeting. Before his death anniversary even came, the angel god was gone, and the spirit hall was in ruins. Good thing he died early, or he would have been furious. Of course, the spirit hall's downfall wasn't just because of Qianren Xuefeng. The other two geniuses helped too. The spirit hall was strong, with a lot of tricks and overwhelming power. It should have taken over the continent sooner or later, but Bibi Dong, Hulayina, and Qianren Xuefeng, three people obsessed with love, ruined everything. If Bibi Dong wasn't hung up on the past, Tang San, who became the sea god and overthrew the spirit hall, would have died a long time ago. If she really wanted him gone, Tang Hao couldn't have stopped her. If Hulayina hadn't been in love, Tang San would have missed Xiao Wu, Daming, and Erming sacrificing themselves, and he wouldn't have become a god in time. He would have died without a fight, and if Qianren Xuefeng wasn't in love, she wouldn't have let Tang San off the hook so many times, which led to her ultimate defeat. She knew that she was the daughter of Tang San's mother's killer, so there was no way they could be together. Being in love isn't necessarily wrong, but it has to be mutual. One-sided love is never good. It was a disaster for the spirit hall to have a pope, saint, and young master like that, and a stroke of luck for their enemies. Xiaoyang, did you notice them too? After the three disappeared upstairs, Shui Yueer asked Mu Yang. Mu Yang was confused. And, were they really strong? Shui Bing'er asked quietly. Mu Yang understood. Shui Yueer, an 8-ring soul Douluo, must have sensed strong soul power from Shilong and Sishue. Maybe she couldn't sense it clearly, but that vague feeling meant they were way stronger than her. After all, the only one who could give her that feeling was a 9-ring titled Douluo. If I had to guess, those two are. Mu Yang didn't say titled Douluo or Your Majesty, but just made a 9 gesture with his hand. Shui Bing'er's eyes widened in disbelief. Wow, she saw 2 rare titled Douluo at once. Wait, it was even crazier. A titled Douluo called a woman young master and treated another like a servant. Spirit Hall. Shui Bing'er thought of the Spirit Hall. Mu Yang said, Bing'er, let's not talk about this. Titled Douluo have great hearing. Shilong and Sishue might overhear, and that would cause trouble. Yes, Xiaoyang is right. Shui Yueer agreed. The restaurant went back to normal, but Shui Yueer was preoccupied, wondering what it all meant. It looked like the angel family's lineage wasn't broken after all. Chapter 83, Training in the Forest. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Needless to say, they were almost certainly from the Spirit Hall. And the only people in the Spirit Hall that the elders would call young master were members of the angel family, but as far as she knew, the angel family was dying out. Aside from the long-retired Sky Invincible, there was only the former Pope Qianren Xuefeng, who Tang Hao killed years ago. Could that woman in white have been Qianren Xuefeng's daughter? Or was Sky Invincible suddenly having kids? This was important information. The angel family may have been small, but everyone knew how dangerous they were. Their 6-winged angel spirit inherited the power of a domain upon awakening. That made every member of the angel family a genius, and everyone that survived became a titled Douluo, without exception. People say Haotian Douluo Tang Hao was the youngest titled Douluo on the continent, the strongest genius of his generation. But the former Pope Qianren Xuefeng, who died by Tang Hao's hammer, wasn't far behind. Qianren Xuefeng achieved titled Douluo at 50. He was almost as talented as Tang Hao. Soon after, the waiters brought the food Mu Yang's table ordered. After dinner, they didn't stick around Soul Hunter Town. They went back to their rooms to wash up and rest. Nothing happened that night. The next morning, just after dawn, Mu Yang and his friends left the hotel after breakfast. Soul Hunter Town wasn't far from the Star Do Great Forest. So they didn't bother with a carriage, opting to run instead. Well, Mu Yang and Shui Bing'er ran. Shui Yueer, using her ice bird martial spirit, flew. Shui Bing'er's ice phoenix was a flying martial spirit, but she couldn't fly as long as Shui Yueer because her soul power level wasn't high enough. Mu Yang had a flying soul bone skill, but he didn't want to show it off. Besides, a soul master can run pretty fast. And with the orange jade blood replenishing ginseng to restore their strength, long distances weren't a problem. 3 days later, deep within the Star Do Great Forest, standing on a thick branch of a towering tree, Shui Yueer scanned the surroundings with her mental power, staying alert in case of trouble. Not far away, a fierce battle was underway. A leopard soul beast, over 10 feet long with sharp claws, fangs, agile movements, and blue and purple stripes, fought 2 ice-blue dragons that emanated a biting cold. The 2 dragons looked similar. Over 5 meters long and lifelike, the more powerful dragon just spewed cold air, while the other breathed icy blue flames. Roar! The weird ice-blue flames clung to its fur, eroding its body. Constrained by the cold, the 10,000-year wind and thunder leopard slowed. It roared, and purple light burst from its body. Boom! With surging soul power, a thunderclap sounded, and a lightning ball half a foot wide fell from the sky, slamming into the dragon wreathed in ice-blue flames. Bang! The lightning exploded, and the dragon shattered, becoming a handful of icy blue flames that dissipated. Then, relying on its soul power to resist the cold from the other dragon, the wind and thunder leopard flashed green. Instantly, dense green wind blades condensed in the air and swept toward a blue-haired boy. TSK. Faced with the blades, Mu Yang, wearing ice flame armor, curled his lip. He tapped his foot and used his unique immortal step, his body shrinking the distance. In a blink, he was 60 feet away. Puff puff puff, the wind blades tore past, plowing the ground. Flowers, grass, branches, dirt, and gravel flew. Roar! Missing its target, the wind and thunder leopard roared. A faint green light appeared, and it sped up, charging at Mu Yang. Long range didn't work. Fine, close combat it is. This leopard wasn't buying that a low-level human soul master could compete with it, a 13,000-year-old soul beast with claws and teeth. Go! Mu Yang raised a finger. A mirror of ice flame rose in the air, meeting the charging leopard. Explode! Mu Yang shouted. Before the leopard could smash the mirror, it exploded against its body. A powerful shockwave erupted, an icy blue flame splashed, covering half the leopard. Instantly, the wind and thunder leopard knew it was in trouble. The shock from the explosion was nothing. It was still a 10,000-year soul beast. Even a sensitive one could shrug that off. But it hated the disgusting ice-blue flame. It had suffered from that flame before. Once it stuck, it burned relentlessly. Luckily, it was strong enough to burn through the flames. And the human wasn't strong enough to make the flames too powerful, so it was only injured. Otherwise, it would have been dead. Then, a delicate cry came from the air. Extreme Ice Arrow Formation. Shui Bing'er, with ice phoenix wings, shouted. A row of ice-blue arrows gathered before her. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. With slight air-breaking sounds, over 10 soul power arrows turned into ice-blue streaks. Soul masters have limited soul ring skills. To give Shui Bing'er more options, Mu Yang taught her some secrets. The Extreme Ice Arrow Formation was a move from the Extreme Ice Secret Method, like Mu Yang's Ice Flame's secret method. The only difference was the attribute of their soul power. Sensing danger from above, the wind and thunder leopard tried to dodge. Shui Bing'er commanded the remaining dragon to charge forward, opening its mouth to unleash a fan-shaped icy breath. Although the leopard was stronger, the breath slowed it, and the Extreme Ice Arrow Formation struck. Puff puff puff, blood flowers bloomed. The leopard's defense failed to completely block the arrows, leaving over 10 bloody holes. Ice Flame Spear. Then, an ice-blue spear shot from a distance and landed on the leopard's back, leaving a shallow hole before exploding into ice flames. Roar! The wind and thunder leopard, burned by the flames, roared in pain. The next second, the purple electric light appeared again, surging with thunder spirit power. Storm clouds condensed, and in a blink, a black cloud tens of meters wide formed. Purple arcs flashed, and then electric snakes shot down. Some targeted Shui Bing'er, others Mu Yang. Third soul skill, resist ice ring. With no time to dodge, Shui Bing'er used her third skill, a crystal repulsive ice ring spread, and the electric snake seemed to solidify. They bounced off the ring's force. Below, seeing the snakes falling, Mu Yang dodged with immortal steps. He controlled 6 ice flame mirrors to protect himself. Lightning is fast, but Mu Yang wasn't fast enough to dodge completely. Boom boom boom, over 10 snakes struck, and the mirrors shattered. They fell on the ice flame armor. Luckily, the mirrors weren't useless. They blocked 9 snakes. The remaining 3 weakened and only shocked Mu Yang before dissipating, causing no real harm. Roar. Having exhausted its skills, the wind and thunder leopard turned and ran. As long as it lived, it could come back stronger. Today, it was quitting. Not that it couldn't win, but what was the point? At most, it got a full meal, and it was lucky. The flames didn't hit vital spots. It was hurt, but it could heal, but if its roots got burned, how would it live? Mu Yang. Seeing the leopard run, Shui Bing'er looked at Mu Yang. Forget it, let it go. Plenty of soul beasts in the forest. Mu Yang shook his head. He wasn't going to chase it, thanks to Kong Jingying Yu and Yu for their monthly tickets. Thanks to 20210301106582630634, Xiaoxiang Feng, 2022060616363252, Xinghuan Menglong, Feng Lin Y for their recommendation tickets. Chapter 84 Mutated Scaled Beast. You are listening at NovelFull.audio. The Wind Thunder Leopard had a top-tier bloodline, making it a formidable agility attack soul beast. As the Ice Fire Immortal Jade Ginseng's 4th soul ring, it could potentially create a speed-enhancing soul power boost. However, while Mu Yang desired speed-enhancing soul power, this Wind Thunder Leopard's cultivation was a bit lacking at just over 13,000 years, falling short of his endurance limit. Ignoring the strength of its soul skills and the boost to physical functions after adding soul rings, the increase in soul power from higher-year soul rings was too significant for Mu Yang to overlook. Having no desire to kill the Thunder Leopard, he simply let it escape. All right. Shui Bing'er nodded, descending from the air and dismissing her ice phoenix spirit. Shui Yue'er hopped down from a nearby tree, bounding over to join them. Impressive. It seems even 10,000-year-old soul beasts are no match for you two, even without your martial soul fusion technique. Shui Yue'er, who had been observing their battle with the Wind Thunder Leopard, nodded in satisfaction. Generally, a 10,000-year soul beast in a one-on-one fight requires a 5th ring soul king to handle. This Wind Thunder Leopard, at over 13,000 years, was likely on par with the best 5-ring agility and attack soul kings, Shui Bing'er, at soul sect level 49, and Mu Yang, at level 40, had managed to repel the leopard without resorting to the fusion skill, demonstrating both rapid soul power growth and exceptional combat prowess. Of course, Shui Yue'er also recognized the significant role their secret techniques played in the fight. Otherwise, Mu Yang, a level 40 food-type soul master, would be easy prey, and Shui Bing'er, with only 4 soul skills, would likely have been forced to flee from the Thunder Leopard. Bing'er, have you sensed an opportunity for a breakthrough? After her praise, Shui Yue'er turned to Shui Bing'er. Not yet. Shui Bing'er shook her head with regret. 3 days prior, after entering the Star Doe Forest, Shui Yue'er had led them directly to the inner area. While the Star Doe Forest was the largest soul beast gathering place on the continent, wandering the outer areas rarely yielded encounters with 10,000-year beasts. In the inner area, as they searched for a suitable target for Mu Yang's 4th soul ring, they were also seeking out 10,000-year soul beasts for training, essentially sparring partners. This Thunder Leopard was their 3rd sparring partner, but either the time was too short, or the experienced beasts didn't push her hard enough, and Shui Bing'er hadn't found her breakthrough. Don't worry, Bing'er. With your talent and dedication, a little hurdle like this won't hold you back for long. Mu Yang stepped forward, taking her hand to comfort her. You bet. Shui Bing'er's fighting spirit was instantly renewed. The next morning, deep in the forest. Auntie, what kind of beast is that? Hidden behind some bushes, Shui Bing'er asked Shui Yue'er, glancing at the unfamiliar soul beast basking lazily in the sun by a nearby creek. The beast exuded a powerful aura. It was over 10 meters long, resembling a crocodile with 4 eyes and thick limbs. Its entire body, including its belly, was covered in palm-sized, blue crystal scales, as if carved from a single, massive piece of blue crystal. No idea. After a moment's observation, Shui Yueer shook her head. She wasn't a soul beast scholar, but as the dean of Tianshui College, she was knowledgeable, yet this strange beast was completely unfamiliar to her. However, the crystal scales indicated it was a defensive soul beast, around 27,000 years old, potentially suitable for Mu Yang's fourth soul ring. Except for the color, it looks a lot like a scaled beast. Could this be a mutated version? Mu Yang mused, stroking his chin while examining it closely. Just as human soul masters' martial souls could mutate, soul beasts could also have mutated individuals, though they were rarer. A mutation? You're probably right. Hearing Mu Yang's observation, Shui Yueer realized that replacing the blue crystal scales with black would create a remarkable resemblance to the well-known scaled beast. After another look at the crystal-like creature, Mu Yang made up his mind quickly. While mutations could be good or bad, this one seemed superior to ordinary scaled beasts, embodying the definition of perfect. Its defensive capabilities were almost certainly exceptional. If used as the fourth soul ring for the ice and fire immortal Jade Ginseng, it could likely generate defensive boosts or shields. The effect would be good, and the age met his requirements, settling Mu Yang's choice. Bing'er. An icy blue light flared around him as the ice flame holy shadow spirit took over. Mu Yang turned to Shui Bing'er, a 27,000-year-old mutated scaled beast with incredible defense. Even if it remained still, his attacks might not even scratch it. He needed the martial soul fusion skill at the very least, should he have Shui Yueer step in. Unless even the fusion skill proved ineffective, Mu Yang preferred not to trouble her. Shui Bing'er needed to practice, and so did he. Her goal was to break through a bottleneck, while his was to gain practical experience. Although his soul power was high, his actual combat experience was limited. He was barely above a novice, so he needed to accumulate more battle experience. Chang. As soul power surged, the cry of a phoenix echoed. Shui Bing'er, infused with the ice phoenix spirit, manifested 4 soul rings, yellow, purple, and black. Immediately, illusory ice flames enveloped Shui Muyang, and a surge of rich blue light emanated from Shui Bing'er's body. The next moment, they embraced. A brilliant ice-blue pillar of light shot upward, completely engulfing them. Soon, as a biting chill filled the air, the ice-blue light faded, revealing a humanoid figure with long, ice-blue hair and wearing ice phoenix armor, the second form of their martial soul fusion skill, Ice Phoenix Flame Shadow. It was the second form because soul rings erupted after a soul beast's death can only be absorbed by the soul master who delivers the killing blow. If a martial soul fusion skill or a soul skill fusion skill is used, only the dominant partner can absorb the soul ring. In their first form, Ice Flame Phoenix, Shui Bing'er was dominant. In the second form, Ice Phoenix Flame Shadow, Mu Yang took the lead. All the activity from Mu Yang and Shui Bing'er performing the fusion drew attention. The mutated scaled beast, lazily sunbathing by the creek, noticed the violent soul power fluctuations and looked over. It's worth mentioning that while the scaled beast looked intimidating, its roar was a bit silly and cute. The same was true for this mutated beast's cry. Hey, big crocodile, come on. With Mu Yang in control, the Ice Phoenix Flame Shadow moved with incredible speed, appearing 30 meters from the mutated beast and taunting it. The mutated beast didn't understand human speech, but it clearly understood the provocation. Spreading its thick limbs, it charged straight toward him like a land tank. Fire of Ice Flame. Dragon of Ice Flame. At the sight, Mu Yang shouted, and an icy blue light surged, creating a field spanning 50 meters around the Ice Phoenix Flame Shadow. Immediately, a dragon's roar erupted, and a 5-meter-long, ice-blue dragon with blazing ice flames rose behind the Ice Phoenix Flame, facing the charging beast. Puff! Surging ice flame energy gathered in the dragon's mouth, and it unleashed a fan-shaped blast of special ice flames at the mutated beast. The flames were highly adhesive, possessing both an ultra-low temperature burning effect and a freezing effect. As soon as they struck the mutated beast, it froze in place, transformed into a burning ice sculpture with blue flames. Shui Bing'er's level 49 soul power and Mu Yang's quasi-soul sect level, combined with the potent Ice Phoenix and Ice Flame Holy Shadow spirits and the boost from the Ice Flame domain, made the Ice Phoenix Flame Shadow comparable to a sixth-ring Soul Emperor, the 27,000-year-old beast, translated to the Soul Master system, would not reach the seven-ringed Soul Saint level. There was no significant level gap between them. The freezing effect would affect the beast, however. Soul beasts have greater resistance than Soul Masters. It would simply break free faster, but there was no cooldown on the Ice Flame Dragon's breath. Furthermore, the flames wouldn't extinguish, meaning that the freezing would last indefinitely. The beast would either burn to death without being able to fight back, or it would rely on its incredible defense until Mu Yang's soul power was exhausted and the flames died. Chapter 85 Titanium Alloy Iron Turtle. You are listening at NovelFull.audio. Seeing the mutated scale beast frozen solid, Mu Yang gave a satisfied nod. He couldn't have taken down this 27,000-year-old beast on his own, but with his martial soul fusion skill and the special ice flame it created, even nastier than his own, how could he not capture a soul beast that wasn't even 30,000 years old? Unless it was something like a pure-blood dragon or a dark gold terraclaw bear or a dark evil tiger, then it'd be a challenge. Just as Mu Yang was feeling confident, he saw the frozen beast bathed in a blue crystal light, even through the ice flame dragon's special icy flames. This put Mu Yang on high alert. A glowing soul beast means it's activating a skill. An ordinary scale beast is just a tough tank, all defense and strength, nothing special, but this blue crystal version was mutated. It couldn't be treated as ordinary. Mutations are unpredictable, and its natural soul skill would be useless unless triggered, but Mu Yang quickly relaxed. The mutated beast remained frozen and burning, the blue crystal glow unchanged. So, its unknown skill was defensive? That made sense. Scale beasts are defensive by nature. Multiple defensive skills after mutation were normal. Besides, multiple defensive skills were a good thing. They'd likely boost the Soul Ring skill's power. For Soul Masters with the same martial soul and soul power, the effect of a soul skill depends on the Soul Ring's age and the Soul Beast's strength. A dragon martial soul with a dragon soul ring is always stronger than a mixed-blood dragon ring of the same age. Compatibility aside, even if this mutated scale beast wasn't qualitatively different from a regular one, its soul ring would still enhance the skill's effect. A minute later, the mutated scale beast remained unharmed. Mu Yang raised an eyebrow, thinking, this thing's defense is insane. 2 minutes later, locked in a stalemate, Mu Yang's face darkened. He realized he'd used up more than half his soul power. At this rate, he couldn't burn it to death even if he exhausted himself. Seriously? Was its skill damage immunity? Like, a 50% reduction, maybe 60 or 70? It was already a tank. With a damage nullifying skill, had it evolved into a titanium alloy tank? Ahem. Auntie, could you lend a hand? The request came sheepishly from within the Ice Phoenix Flame Shadow armor. Damn it star. He needed a martial soul fusion skill to hunt a soul beast this bad. Unbelievable. If it wasn't for its age putting it on par with him mentally, he'd just use illusion mystery technique to take it out. But Soul Masters struggling to defeat the next Soul Ring beast was common. For example, a level 50 Soul Master typically needs a 10,000-year 5th ring, but most 10,000-year Soul Beasts are as strong as a 5-ring Soul King. That's not something ordinary level 50 Soul Masters can handle. Soul Masters with martial soul fusion skills are different. Combat-oriented skills boost their strength by at least 1, maybe 2 major levels. They don't have to worry about being too weak to hunt their needed Soul Beasts. But now, Freak Mu Yang had arrived. He could handle soul rings that even level 60 Soul Masters couldn't, and his skills gave him only a small boost. Of course, this mutated beast was unusual. Any normal beast of the same age wouldn't have been a problem. Haha, so rare to see our family's genius beaten, Shui Yueer teased Mu Yang. Ice bird, possess. Ice blue light enveloped her, and a bird's shadow flashed behind her. Shui Yueer activated her martial soul, and 8 soul rings, yellow, yellow, purple, purple, black, 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 and black, appeared. This mutated scale beast was young, but well defended. Without skills, Shui Yueer couldn't do much damage with a single blow. 6th soul skill, Feather of Extreme Ice. Her 6th ring glowed. As ice soul power surged, a gorgeous 10-foot-long ice blue feather appeared behind her and launched at the frozen beast, boom, star, the feather struck the lower half of the crocodile-like beast's body. Bright ice blue light exploded, a deafening roar erupted, and a spray of ice-stained flesh, broken bones, and scales filled the air. When the dust settled, Mu Yang saw the beast, formerly 10 meters long, reduced to less than 6, including its tail. Its lower half was gone. After all, an 8-ringed soul Douluo is one of the continent's top masters. Taking down a soul beast under 30,000 years old is easy, especially with a single target attack skill. Breaking through the beast's armor made things easy. Ice Phoenix Flame Shadow was useless against a titanium-covered tank, but after the shell was gone, it was an easy target. The Dragon of Ice Flame dove down, spewing ice flame into the gap, burning it from the inside out. The beast, severely injured by Shui Yueer and near death, finally gave in. Golden light filled the air, and a black 10,000-year soul ring appeared, dispelling his martial soul fusion skill and switching to the ice-fire immortal Jade Ginseng. Mu Yang stepped forward to absorb the ring. Meanwhile, deeper in the Star Do forest. Damn it, that Shilong unleashed his 6th soul skill, temporarily repelling the flame-winged tiger. He cursed inwardly, glancing at Thorn Blood, also fighting another tiger. Shilong turned to Qianren Xuefeng, protected by the Seraphim martial soul, and said, "Young master, we're far from the core. Retreat now. Uncle Shilong, Uncle Bloodthorn, be careful." Qianren Xuefeng knew she couldn't help and agreed. Her angel wings fluttered, and she flew out of the forest. Roar! Seeing their target escaping, the tigers roared and tried to abandon their fight to pursue Qianren Xuefeng. Shilong couldn't allow that. As her bodyguard, he couldn't let anything happen to her. Humph! You beast! I've had enough. 9th soul skill, destruction of the dark thunder snake. Shilong's 9th ring glowed, his spear danced, and a huge black-purple snake of lightning erupted. Without Qianren Xuefeng to protect, Shilong could finally fight without holding back. Qianren Xuefeng's constant use of whale gum made her physically superior to other soul masters of her level. Add her 99,999-year-old angel head soul bone, and she was mentally and physically strong enough to handle a 30,000-year ring. The Sunset Forest might have 30,000-year beasts, but compatibility was more important. Seraphs have sacred and fire attributes. The best beasts to hunt had those attributes, or light and fire. That's why Qianren Xuefeng brought Shilong and Thorn Blood to Star Do. The hunt had started smoothly. They found a 30,000-year-old flaming winged tiger with light and fire attributes. Qianren Xuefeng had Shilong cripple it, then she finished it off. After refining the ring for most of the day, she broke through level 60 and entered level 62, but trouble came. The tiger she hunted wasn't alone. Its parents were back. They were strong, approaching 90,000 and 80,000 years old, not much weaker than the weak chicken Douluo Shilong and Thorn Blood. With Qianren Xuefeng there, they'd been fighting since morning, from the core to the inner area, with no clear victor. Luckily, the inner area had fewer strong soul beasts. A 6th ring soul emperor could protect herself, so, Shilong told Qianren Xuefeng to leave first. Then, he and Thorn Blood could take out their frustrations on the tigers. Shilong, I might be a weak Douluo, but I can still beat an 80,000-year-old beast. Chapter 86 Unlucky Years. You are listening at novelfull.audio. 15 minutes later, a figure with 4 wings, radiating a holy aura like an angel, sped through the forest, trailing hundreds of yards behind. 2 massive, dark gray bird spirit beasts with 20-foot wingspans, surrounded by black mist and exuding malevolent energy, were in hot pursuit. Damn it! Qianren Xuefeng cursed under her breath, looking back at the pair of dark gray eagles gaining on her, frustration boiling inside. She was learning firsthand what it meant to be both lucky and cursed. Yesterday, she'd become a soul emperor, advancing to the 6th ring, but before the smile could fade from her face, the parents of the light flame winged tiger she'd just hunted showed up, with both light and fire attributes. Light flame winged tigers possess a superior bloodline, over 80,000 years of cultivation, and power exceeding that of an ordinary 8-ring soul Douluo. Although Shilong and Shui Yueer were both 9-ring titled Douluos, their low soul power and imperfect soul ring combination meant they were outmatched by the 2 tigers. Sensing the situation, Qianren Xuefeng knew the best course of action was to ditch them and let them handle it, without worrying about her. The two Douluos, though outmatched, could at least hold off the flame-winged tigers. However, the spirit beast hunting ground was located deep in the Star Do Great Forest. As a newly minted six-ringed soul emperor, even with her potent six-winged angel martial soul and the power of her angel domain, which put her on par with a fresh seven-ringed soul saint, she wasn't confident she could escape the forest alone. Any flying spirit beast over 50,000 years old could give her a serious beatdown, and there were plenty of those in the forest's core. Winning those odds wasn't likely. Instead of risking an unknown solo escape, she decided to stick with the status quo. At least with two Douluo guards, the flame-winged tigers couldn't easily take her. Besides, her time to escape wasn't quite right yet. Once they were out of the core area and the forest wasn't as dangerous, she would have the two Douluo cover their rear, greatly increasing their safety. With power comparable to a seven-ringed soul saint, she ranked near the top among the spirit beasts in the inner areas of the forest, unless there was bad blood and their strength was nearly equal. Which overlord-level spirit beast in the inner area would pick a fight with her for no reason? Unfortunately, plans often go awry. The three of them fought and retreated against the vengeful flame-winged tigers for most of the day. Even though she wasn't directly fighting, flying still drained her soul power. By day's end, she was nearly spent. After instructing the two Douluos to hold the line, Qianren Xuefeng went to find a place to replenish her dwindling reserves, only to stumble upon the nest of a pair of black nether-gray vultures. Black nether-gray vultures were dark attribute, evil spirit beasts, with a murderous, bloodthirsty nature and a preference for corpses. They hated light. When a human soul master radiating even more evil than themselves landed near their nest, the two 40,000-year-old black nether-gray vultures immediately felt their overlord status was being challenged. On top of that, Qianren Xuefeng's holy aura disgusted them. They attacked without a word. They couldn't speak anyway. The black nether-gray vulture bloodline wasn't particularly strong. At 40,000 years, their overall power was only slightly above Qianren Xuefeng, who had just reached the sixth ring but possessed the six-winged angel martial soul and angel domain. But that power differential assumed Qianren Xuefeng was at full strength and fighting one-on-one, with her soul power nearly depleted, fighting two opponents, and lacking real combat experience. She knew she was outmatched. After fending off the first attack, she turned tail and ran. Qianren Xuefeng hoped to outrun them with the speed granted by her six-winged angel martial soul, or that they'd give up the chase out of boredom. But to her surprise, the two vultures were not only incredibly persistent, they were nearly as fast, if not slightly faster. If not for the divine energy of the angel domain, which made the vultures cautious, she figured she'd have been caught by now. What Qianren Xuefeng didn't realize was that the vultures were chasing her relentlessly because of her six-winged angel martial soul. Darkness craves light, evil craves holiness. To the evil black nether-gray vultures, Qianren Xuefeng was a potent tonic, more nutritious than an eight-ringed soul Douluo, practically Tang monk's flesh in the eyes of demons. If I'd known, I should have fought them from the start. I might have stood a chance. As she flew, glancing back at her pursuers, despair and regret flickered in her eyes, but just as she was losing hope, she spotted a figure radiating extraordinary energy flying toward her from the forest a few miles ahead. Back in the forest, Mu Yang was refining the spirit ring of the mutant scale-armored beast. Suddenly, Shui Yueer, who was standing guard and monitoring the surroundings, frowned and looked skyward. She sensed one holy and two evil auras rapidly approaching. Bing'er, stay here and watch over Xiaoyang. Without hesitation, she instructed Shui Bing'er and activated her ice bird martial soul, soaring into the sky towards the incoming auras. Mu Yang was in the middle of refining a spirit ring, and any disturbance would be unwelcome. She had to intercept them. Besides, Mu Yang's 10,000-year third spirit ring and 27,000-year fourth spirit ring weren't suitable to be seen by outsiders. As soon as she was airborne, Shui Yueer spotted a young blonde woman with 4 holy wings and 6 glowing spirit rings in the distance. Trailing her were 2 dark gray eagles over 40,000 years old. Could it be? Shui Yueer recognized her instantly. If she wasn't mistaken, this blonde was the Spirit Hall's young master from the angel family, whom she'd seen at the soul-hunting town hotel a few days ago. as Dean of Tianshui College, Shui Yueer had learned about the six-winged angel spirit inherited by the angel family from the college's ancient texts. Although the spirit was called six-winged angel, it didn't mean the user would grow 6 wings after spirit possession. To grow 6 wings, 1 soul power had to reach the 9-ring title Douluo level. Even before reaching the 6th ring Soul Emperor, a 6-winged angel spirit master could only manifest 2 wings. Even though the blonde before her only had 4 wings, she was undoubtedly the genuine article, and if she possessed the 6-winged angel spirit and was addressed as young master by a 9-ring title Douluo, who else could she be but the spirit hall's young master? The question was, where were her bodyguards? With 2 Douluos in attendance, these 40,000-year-old eagles should be easy pickings. Shui Yueer had 3 choices. First, she could pretend she didn't see anything and watch the eagles devour Qianren Xuefeng. In that case, the spirit hall's future powerhouse would probably die in the Qingdao forest. Second, she could kill Qianren Xuefeng herself to ensure the spirit hall's loss. Third, she could save Qianren Xuefeng. If the young master had any conscience, she'd owe Shui Yueer a debt. After a moment's thought and weighing the pros and cons, Shui Yueer flew forward, her 8th spirit ring glowing, and activated her 8th spirit skill of nearly 80,000 years. Extreme cold storm, a surge of soul power created a biting cold air covering the sky, filled with countless palm-sized snowflakes, and swept towards the pursuing vultures. The moment the extreme cold storm hit, the eagles felt the intense cold and froze in mid-air. Before they could turn into ice sculptures, the snowflakes, like countless tiny, razor-sharp blades, washed over them. Blood, chunks of flesh, and broken feathers mixed with ice fragments exploded in the air. When the snowflakes cleared, only 2 shattered bird skeletons, covered in blood and ice, fell to the forest floor. Except for dragon-type beasts, most flying spirit beasts rely on agility and speed, with weak defenses. Against Shui Yueer's 8th spirit skill, even without a martial soul avatar or amplifying spirit abilities, they stood no chance. Qianren Xuefeng felt a surge of relief watching her tormentors fall from the sky, then bowed to Shui Yueer with gratitude. Junior Qianren Xuefeng thanks Dean Shui for saving my life. Shui Yueer was the dean of Tianshui College. Aside from Xiangjia Academy, which had clearly declared its allegiance, the other 4 elemental academies were targets of the Tiandou Empire's outreach efforts. Qianren Xuefeng, masquerading as Tiandou Prince Xueqinghe, naturally recognized Shui Yueer. During the last Soul Master competition, Qianren Xuefeng, as Xueqinghe, had even visited the Tianshui College team on behalf of Emperor Shui. Chapter 87 Don't Come Over Here. You are listening at NovelFull.audio. When Qianren Xuefeng, facing her savior Shui Yueer, saw no reason to hide her real name, even her position as the spirit hall's heir apparent didn't need concealing. As long as Shui Yueer didn't realize she was also Prince Xueqinghe of the Tiandou Empire, that would blow her years-long cover. Shui Yueer looked surprised when Qianren Xuefeng revealed her origins. She hadn't expected the angel family's current heir to know her, but knowing her was fine. It saved her from having to introduce herself. Don't mention it. It was nothing. Now that you've advanced, you should leave Qingdao Great Forest. Shui Yueer waved it off, speaking casually before turning and flying away. Qianren Xuefeng was taken aback when Shui Yueer turned to leave. She hadn't even had a chance to thank her properly. Snapping out of it, Qianren Xuefeng quickly called out, Dean Shui, I can't possibly repay you for saving my life. If you ever need anything, send someone to the Spirit Hall Worship Hall to find me. For Shui Yueer, taking down 2 evil spirit beasts was probably no big deal, just another day at the office. But for Qianren Xuefeng, it was a debt she owed. As a descendant of the angel family, representing light and justice, there was no way she could just let this go. Even if she couldn't repay the debt herself right away, she could get the Spirit Hall and her grandfather to do it. Hearing the shouts behind her, Shui Yueer, still facing away from Qianren Xuefeng, smiled before disappearing into the forest. Shui Yueer had helped Qianren Xuefeng in order to get in the good graces of the Spirit Hall's young master. Watching Qianren Xuefeng get hunted down was not worth it. Killing Qianren Xuefeng wouldn't benefit her or Tianshui Academy either. After all, Tianshui Academy was just a training ground for soul masters, and graduates weren't bound to the academy after graduating. Many Tianshui Academy alumni had joined the Spirit Hall over the years. In the absence of bad blood, whether the Spirit Hall gained another powerhouse wouldn't drastically affect Shui Academy, but helping Qianren Xuefeng was different. 2 spirit beasts over 40,000 years old were nothing for her, an 8-ring soul Douluo, with a life-saving debt established, Shui Academy wouldn't have to worry about the Spirit Hall, the dominant force in the Soul Master world, turning against them. Everyone knew that the Spirit Hall was run by 2 people, Pope Bibi Dong and the retired Sky Invincible Qian Dalu. Even within the Spirit Hall, Sky Invincible's influence, despite his retirement, was still stronger. He was, after all, one of the strongest people in the world, and before Bibi Dong, the Pope position had always been held by members of the angel family. That kind of influence couldn't be wiped away in just 10 years. Shui Yueer wasn't sure about the relationship between Bibi Dong and Qianren Xuefeng. It didn't matter if they weren't close, as long as Qianren Xuefeng and Qian Dalu had a strong bond. Since Qianren Xuefeng was the Spirit Hall's heir and from the angel family, she had to be either the daughter of the former Pope Qian Xuanji, or the child of Sky Invincible. Whether she was his granddaughter or daughter, Sky Invincible would have to acknowledge the debt incurred today, or the Qian family line would die out. With that kind of connection, who in the Spirit Hall would dare to mess with Shui Academy in the future? If Mu Yang wasn't in the middle of absorbing spirit rings, and if his spirit ring configuration wasn't too risky to reveal, Shui Yueer would have escorted Qianren Xuefeng out of the Xingdou Great Forest. Luckily, they were only in the inner area of the forest, where powerful spirit beasts were less common. With Qianren Xuefeng's level as a 6-ring spirit emperor, she should be fine as long as she didn't get unlucky. As for the earlier scene where she was chased by 2 dark eagles, well, that must have been a stroke of incredibly bad luck. Spirit beasts over 40,000 years old were rare in the inner area, let alone 2 at once. After Shui Yueer left, Qianren Xuefeng didn't leave the forest right away. Instead, she landed below and began quietly recovering her spirit power. If she had been at full strength when she ran into the black nether-gray vultures, she wouldn't have been in so much danger. She might not have been able to defeat them, but she was fast, and her angelic power was effective against evil. She could have run, even if she couldn't win. Once she got out of the Star Do Great Forest, would those spirit beasts dare to pursue her? She wouldn't even have to get out of the forest. She could just turn around and look for Shilong and the others. They were 9-ring title Douluo, after all. Facing 2 80,000-year-old flame-winged tigers, they could easily take down those vultures. Meanwhile, 2 figures were flying high above the forest. These were Shilong and Sishue. It wasn't because they were strong that they were able to escape being captured and killed. Instead, they unleashed a wave of powerful moves, and after repelling the 2 flame-winged tigers, the 2 brothers decided to quit while they were ahead. They followed the remaining sacred aura in the air to look for Qianren Xuefeng, who had evacuated first. Their duty was to be bodyguards. The young master Qianren Xuefeng hadn't completely escaped danger, so the 2 brothers dared not relax at all. If anything went wrong, Qian Dalu, the Grand Elder, wouldn't spare them. Suddenly, as they passed a cliff, Shi and Long's expressions changed. Their powerful spiritual perception detected remnants of Qianren Xuefeng's sacred soul power, as well as traces of an evil spirit power, especially in the nest on the other side of the cliff. The remnant of this evil soul power was particularly strong. And, most importantly, Qianren Xuefeng's flight direction had changed. Based on the remaining soul power, obviously, Qianren Xuefeng had probably been passing nearby and was ambushed by the evil spirit beast. A chase had immediately started, forcing Qianren Xuefeng to change direction temporarily. The 2 brothers kicked things into high gear and chased after the remaining aura at top speed. Not long after, 2 figures landed in front of Qianren Xuefeng, who was recovering her soul power. Seeing that Qianren Xuefeng was safe and sound, Shilong and Zhang Shui breathed a sigh of relief. Good thing nothing went wrong. Or they wouldn't have been able to explain things to the Grand Elder. The brothers weren't the only ones relieved. Qianren Xuefeng was also happy to see her bodyguards back and safe. Glancing at the surrounding forest frozen by ice and the 2 mutilated beast corpses nearby, Shilong asked, "Young master, did an ice soul Douluo take action?" "Yes, thanks to Dean Shui of Shui Academy." Qianren Xuefeng nodded. She really thought she was toast back there. Shui Academy. Shui Yueer. Hearing this, the 2 raised their eyebrows. Qianren Xuefeng had been working undercover in the Qianzhou Empire for years. The two brothers had also kept an eye on the situation of various forces in the empire, including a basic understanding of the top factions in Tiando. They naturally knew who the dean of Tianshui Academy was. Young master, the water dean seems to be 3 or 4 miles over there, along with 2 other people. One of them seems to be refining a spirit ring. Pointing north, Shilong said to Qianren Xuefeng, his perception wasn't very specific, but Shilong sensed the soul power auras of Shui Yueer, Shui Bing'er, and Mu Yang, who was refining a spirit ring a few miles away. I see. What a coincidence. Qianren Xuefeng suddenly realized, no wonder Shui Yueer had suddenly popped up in the forest. She was leading people to hunt for souls, and people from Tianshui Academy happened to be refining spirit rings nearby. Qianren Xuefeng felt like she should thank the person refining the spirit ring. If they hadn't been nearby, Shui Yueer wouldn't have been around. Without Shui Yueer's help, she might not have been able to hold out until Shilong and the others arrived. Let's go over there. The water dean left in a hurry, so I didn't have time to thank her properly. Greeting the two, Qianren Xuefeng walked toward the direction of Shui Yueer. Now that she knew, she had to go over and express her gratitude. Mu Yang, don't come over. Young master, is it alright if she learns about your identity? Lien Shui asked hesitantly. Qianren Xuefeng's true identity was a closely guarded secret within the spirit hall. Only a few senior officials knew about it, and it wasn't appropriate for outsiders like Shui Yueer to find out. Qianren Xuefeng waved her hand without looking back. It doesn't matter. I'm just Qianren Xuefeng now. So what if the daughter of the former pope, who was thought to have died in infancy, actually hadn't? As long as Xueqing's identity wasn't revealed, with her invincible grandfather around, who would dare mess with her? They'd have to face Invincible Sky himself. Seeing this, Shilong and Zhang Shui followed. Along the way, Qianren Xuefeng started thinking about how to repay Shui Yueer. Should she give her a soul bone? Or offer other treasures? This was, after all, a life-saving favor. Just promising come to me if you ever need help seemed a bit cheap and didn't reflect her status as the spirit hall's heir. Tianshui Academy was quite powerful, and because it was an academic institution without a clear allegiance, no major power on the continent would want to cause trouble for them. It was questionable whether Shui Yueer would ever even need her promise. As Qianren Xuefeng was pondering, a figure appeared in front of them. Chapter 88, A Warm Welcome but a Cold Shoulder. You are listening at NovelFull.audio. At that moment, Shui Yueer felt cornered. She already suspected something was up when she saw Qianren Xuefeng hadn't left. Sure enough, it wasn't long before the 2 titled Douluo who were acting as Qianren Xuefeng's bodyguards showed up, and the 3 of them were headed this way. Normally, this wouldn't be a big deal. Aside from the fact that Qianren Xuefeng owed her a life, even if there was nothing between them, running into 2 titled Douluo from the Spirit Hall in the Star Do Forest wouldn't be a cause for alarm. After all, if you're not an evil spirit master who enjoys killing people and you haven't done anything to offend them, they won't give you a second glance, let alone kill you. But the timing couldn't have been worse. Right now, Mu Yang was in the middle of absorbing the spirit ring of that mutated unicorn beast. The age limit was so extreme that it was crucial Qianren Xuefeng and her crew from the spirit hall didn't see it, so, Shui Yueer reluctantly decided to try and steer Qianren Xuefeng and her people away. Spotting Shui Yueer, Qianren Xuefeng hurried over and said, Dean Shui, thank you again for your help back there. I owe you my life. I was wondering when you might be free. I'd really like to throw a banquet to show my gratitude. Greetings, Your Excellencies, Shui Yueer said, bowing to Shilong and Thornblood. She then forced a smile, looked at Qianren Xuefeng, and said, thanks for the thought, but I'm still overseeing some of my younger students' spirit hunts. I'm afraid I'm tied up at the moment. What spirit level is your student? What kind of spirit ring are they looking for? I can ask these 2 Douluo to help track one down. Qianren Xuefeng offered generously. Shui Yueer only had 2 students with her, and one was currently absorbing a spirit ring, so they probably only needed one more. Shilong and Thornblood could handle that in no time. Then, they could all leave the Star Do Forest together, and she could finally host a banquet for them. It wouldn't take long at all. No need to trouble the Douluo for a spirit hunt. Faced with Qianren Xuefeng's persistence, Shui Yueer couldn't help but twitch slightly, declining the offer again. Suddenly, Shi Long, who was standing behind Qianren Xuefeng, using his mental power to scan the area, flinched noticeably. He quickly composed himself, but cast a long, hard look at Shui Yueer. As the conversation continued, the smile on Qianren Xuefeng's face began to look strained. Having spent years disguised as Shui Qinghe and being mentored by the old fox Ning Fengji, Qianren Xuefeng had some serious mental acuity and tactical skills, before her love brain kicked in. From Shui Yueer's words and demeanor, she could practically read her thoughts. Why won't you just leave? Fine, so her enthusiasm was being met with the cold shoulder. Dean Shui, in that case, I'll be on my way. If you ever find yourself with free time, you're welcome to visit Wuhu City as my guest, Qianren Xuefeng said, masking her annoyance with a renewed, genuine smile. Of course, Shui Yueer replied with a smile and a nod. Afterward, Qianren Xuefeng led Shi Long and Thorn Blood away. Watching them leave, Shui Yueer secretly breathed a sigh of relief, but soon, a wave of regret washed over her. Even if Qianren Xuefeng and her bodyguards didn't actually see Mu Yang absorbing the mutated spirit ring, the titled Douluo had strong mental powers. She couldn't shake the feeling that they might have detected something near Mu Yang, even without her realizing it. If I had known, I wouldn't have interfered, Shui Yueer thought, regretting her actions. Qianren Xuefeng was the young master of Spirit Hall, and the favor from Invincible Sky was precious, but compared to Mu Yang's future safety, it seemed insignificant. After all, when Mu Yang's twin martial souls reached mastery, she believed that his strength would surpass that of Invincible Sky, if not more. For now, Shui Yueer could only hope that Qianren Xuefeng and her entourage hadn't noticed anything, or that they wouldn't try anything against Mu Yang if they had. As they walked through the forest, Qianren Xuefeng looked unhappy. Who was she? Qianren Xuefeng, granddaughter of Invincible Sky, the young master of Spirit Hall, and heir to the angel family. Even when carrying out her plan in the Heaven Do Empire, she was still the eldest prince, and soon to be the crown prince. This kind of cold shoulder treatment was something she hadn't experienced since dealing with Bibi Dong. Uncle Shi Long, Uncle Thorn Blood, do you think Dean Shui dislikes Spirit Hall, which is why she was so hostile to me? Qianren Xuefeng asked, stopping and turning to Shi Long and Thorn Blood. Hearing this, Shi Long recalled the blue-haired boy absorbing the refined spirit ring nearby, and carefully chose his words. Young master, I was just about to say something about that. It might not be that Dean Shui dislikes you, but the timing was off. Huh? What do you mean? Qianren Xuefeng frowned slightly. Young master, at what age do you think a spirit master can handle their third and fourth spirit rings? Shi Long asked rhetorically. After a moment of thought, Qianren Xuefeng replied, without spirit bones, the third spirit ring used to be around 1,500 years, and the fourth around 5,000 at most, but now that the full potential of whale oil has been discovered, I've heard that the third spirit ring can reach 5,000 to 6,000 years, and the fourth around 9,000. And if you are a spirit soul master, maybe the fourth soul ring of 10,000 years is also possible. Just now, there was a blue-haired boy with a 1,000-year second spirit ring and a 10,000-year third spirit ring refining the fourth spirit ring. Judging from its color, it must have been at least 25,000 years old. If you were in that boy's position, you wouldn't want any outsiders nearby. And if there were spirit masters nearby, I would kill them to make sure that the news would not be leaked. Shi Long said seriously. What? A 10,000-year third spirit ring and a fourth spirit ring of at least 25,000 years? Shi Long, are you seeing things? Xuefeng asked incredulously, was this Douluo's fifth ring not as old as the kid's third? You gotta be kidding me. A look of disbelief flashed in Qianren Xuefeng's light purple eyes. She couldn't help but ask, if you want a 10,000-year third spirit ring, you'd need at least a high-age head spirit bone to improve your mental strength, or you wouldn't be able to withstand the shock, and the physical fitness of a level 30 spirit master would have to be comparable to that of a level 50. Whale oil alone wouldn't cut it. You'd need at least a high-age trunk or limb spirit bone. Tianshui Academy only accepts female students. Uncle Shi Long, the blue-haired boy you mentioned must be a member of Dean Shui's family. Is the Shui family of Qianshui City really that arrogant? I don't know if the Shui family is arrogant, but the blue-haired boy's martial soul is a food-type martial soul. Maybe he is not from the Shui family. Shilong said, touching his chin. Qianren Xuefeng raised her eyebrows slightly. Food-type soul master. Wow, this food-type soul master was impressive. As the young master of Spirit Hall, Qianren Xuefeng's perspective was different from ordinary soul masters. In theory, spirit masters specializing in support, treatment, and food could be powerful in combat, well, if they were extravagant enough, not just poor, like her nominal teacher Ningfengji. Although he was only a 7-ring support spirit saint, he had refined a lot of spirit bones because of the 7 treasures glazed tile sex extravagance. With high-age spirit bone skills combined with his own attribute amplification spirit skills, he can hold his own in a fight with an ordinary 7-ring spirit saint. Of course, Ningfengji was used to a life of luxury and always traveled with at least one sword bone Douluo, so it was basically impossible for him to get his hands dirty. Suddenly, Xuefeng caught a key point and asked, Shilong, are you sure it was a second spirit ring of 1,000 years? Even the outrageous third spirit ring of 10,000 years has been there, so what's so strange about a second ring of 1,000 years? Shilong asked, confused. Generally speaking, even if a family is rich and powerful, they wouldn't give their best spirit bones to the younger generation too early. The young master is a special case. If it wasn't necessary for the plan, I don't think the great priest would have given you spirit bones so early. Blazing Academy discovered the real effects of whale oil, but it's only been 3 years since they announced the news. Before that, without relying on spirit bones to improve your quality, you couldn't add a 1,000-year second spirit ring. After a pause, Xuefeng added, well, I hope my guess is wrong. What guess? The second ring was 20 levels away from the 4th ring, but it took the young man less than 3 years to cross those 20 levels of soul power. Interesting. If his cultivation talent is sufficient, it's not impossible to increase his soul power by 10 levels in 3 years. As for the remaining 10 levels of soul power, with the soul ring of excessive age, the soul power level after advancement would definitely not be as simple as level 21 and level 31. In addition, the soul power increase brought by refining high-year spirit bones is theoretically feasible. Qianren Xuefeng didn't think of the blue-haired boy as a freak like Xuefeng did. After all, who knows how many spirit bones the boy has refined besides the head soul bone? If it was just one top-grade soul bone, then he could be considered to have a strong talent, but if he had refined more than one top-grade soul bone, and his soul power increased significantly, calling him a genius soul master would be a compliment. If her grandfather had cultivated her at all costs and regardless of the consequences, it wasn't impossible for the Spirit Hall to produce a 4-ring soul master who had just awakened his spirit. With a congenital 20-level soul power, a set of high-year soul bones can be arranged. Aside from the head soul bone, which doesn't directly increase soul power after refining, the 4 limbs and torso spirit bones increase soul power by an average of 3 levels, which is an additional 15 levels. The remaining 5 levels needed to reach the 40-level quasi-soul master can be given to the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd spirit rings, whose ages greatly exceed the optimal ratio limit. However, although she said so, Qianren Xuefeng also understood that the blue-haired boy must be a rare genius. Soul master on the continent. Otherwise, no matter how arrogant the family behind him was, they wouldn't waste a lot of money to cultivate a younger generation with no outstanding talent. So, Uncle Shilong, when you get back, have someone check the boy's information. But use our own people. After thinking for a moment, Qianren Xuefeng told Shilong. Yes, young master. Shilong replied, the own people that Qianren Xuefeng mentioned weren't simply people from the Spirit Hall, but the angel family's diehards assigned by DouluoDalu to help Qianren Xuefeng in the Heaven Do Empire. They didn't take orders from the Pope's palace. Chapter 89 External Soul Bone, Crystal Scale Armor, Part 1. You are listening at NovelFull.audio. Time crawled by, and before they knew it, night had fallen over the star forest. Mu Yang's process of absorbing the mutant-scaled beast soul ring was nearing completion, and the soul power radiating from him was beginning to stabilize. But just as Mu Yang thought he was in the clear, a sharp pain shot through his chest, quickly spreading throughout his entire body, except for his head. The searing agony overwhelmed him, and Mu Yang couldn't help but cry out, hearing Mu Yang scream. Shui Bing'er, who was preparing dinner by the campfire, rushed over, her face etched with worry. "Auntie, what's wrong with Mu Yang?" Shui Bing'er asked Shui Yueer anxiously, noticing the beads of sweat forming on Mu Yang's forehead. "I'm not sure. He didn't show any signs of distress when he was initially absorbing the spirit ring." "Why now?" "Wait a minute. I think I know." Frowning, Shui Yueer tried to pinpoint the cause, suddenly recalling a unique situation described in the Academy's ancient texts. Before Shui Bing'er could ask anything, Shui Yueer smiled reassuringly. "Bing'er, don't worry, this might actually be a good thing, that when absorbing a spirit ring of 10,000 years or more, as long as the Soul Master's body can withstand the impact of the spirit ring's energy and their mental fortitude can resist the spiritual shock from the spirit beast's residual thoughts, the process is generally safe. Since Mu Yang is experiencing problems now, and appears to be in intense pain, there's only one explanation." Shui Bing'er looked confused. Suddenly, a brilliant blue crystal light erupted from Mu Yang's chest. Under the night sky, the light was especially striking, immediately capturing the attention of Shui Bing'er and Shui Yueer. In an instant, the two watched as the blue crystal light began to spread outward from Mu Yang's chest. Quickly, the radiant blue light enveloped Mu Yang's entire body, except for his head and neck. Ugh! Another wave of excruciating pain washed over him, and Mu Yang, who had barely recovered, let out a stifled groan. As Shui Bing'er watched anxiously, the brilliant blue crystal light on Mu Yang's body began to condense and solidify, gradually forming a blue crystal armor. Composed of countless crystal scales of varying sizes, the armor was clear and sparkling, protecting his entire body from the neck down. "Is that an external soul bone?" Seeing the blue crystal armor on Mu Yang, Shui Bing'er's eyes widened in disbelief. "Yes, it's a rare external soul bone, worth as much as 100,000-year soul bone. And for Xiao Yang, this is even more valuable." Shui Yueer's expression reflected "I knew it," then smiled. From the start, Shui Yueer had a hunch that Mu Yang might be fortunate enough to obtain an external soul bone. It was the only explanation for what was happening. Of course, Shui Yueer's understanding wasn't as advanced as those who had transmigrated from another world or the few experts aware of the existence of ferocious beasts. She didn't know that 100,000 years wasn't the maximum age for soul bones, that 200,000-year or even million-year soul bones existed. She believed the external soul bone was even more valuable than a 100,000-year soul bone because she knew that an external soul bone could increase in age as the Soul Master's soul power level increased. When the Soul Master reached the 9-ring title Douluo level, the age of the external soul bone could reach 100,000 years, although Shui Yueer thought Mu Yang's external soul bone could only reach a maximum of 100,000 years. From an age perspective, it was the same as an ordinary 100,000-year soul bone. External soul bones are extremely rare. If you miss the opportunity, there might never be another chance. Normal 100,000-year soul bones are different. Once Mu Yang's twin martial souls are perfected, and with the power of the continent's strongest individuals, he can search the Star Do Great Forest, the far north, and even the vast ocean, and obtain a complete set of 100,000-year soul bones in the future. With an external soul bone, Mu Yang can have one more soul bone slot than most soul masters. This is simply amazing. The sun and moon took turns in the sky. As the first rays of sunlight chased away the darkness in the forest, Mu Yang slowly opened his eyes. Who would have thought that I, Mu Yang, would also have the destiny of a protagonist? Feeling the transformation of the soul power in his body, gazing down at the blue crystal armor, and stroking the unusually strong crystal scales, Mu Yang couldn't help but grin and secretly think, while the soul power in the body has increased significantly after advancing to the 4th ring Soul Master, the control over soul power is inevitably reduced. But Mu Yang can feel that the level of soul power control is entering the 43rd level of Soul Master, and not the first level of 43, but in the middle position. Knock, knock. Shui Bing'er knocked on Mu Yang's external soul bone armor and asked with a smile, Mu Yang, what do you think about getting an external soul bone? No pain, no gain. After considering it, Yang replied. When he merged with the external soul bone, he almost died from the pain. To be honest, he had never experienced such agony, in either his past or present life. It felt like torture. Even when he consumed the 8-angled black ice grass and the fiery apricot jiaoshu, it was nothing compared to this. Fortunately, the suffering wasn't in vain. As long as he was alive, he could exchange it for a precious external soul bone. It's no big deal to suffer a little. However, perhaps because of its lack of age, this external soul bone armor failed to protect his entire body. It was somewhat incomplete, lacking coverage above the neck. Yang estimated that for his external soul bone armor to transform into a soul bone armor that protected him from head to toe, he would have to wait until he advanced to the 9-ring title Douluo level in the future and the soul bone's age reached 100,000 years, but the benefits outweigh the flaws. As long as no one targets his neck and head, Yang can ignore the 10,000-year-strong attack soul skills of most of the 5-ring war soul kings with the defensive power of this external soul bone armor. It looks similar to the scales on the mutant scaled beast. It should come with defensive soul bone skills, right? At this time, Shui Yueer pointed at the external soul bone armor on Yang and said. Yang nodded. Yes, soul bone skill, crystal body. It can block 30% of physical and energy attacks, and there's no time limit. It can be maintained by continuously consuming soul power. The soul bone skills attached to a soul bone are inherited from the abilities of the soul beast that produced it. He was lucky. The external soul bone inherited the mutant scaled beast's unique soul skill with injury immunity. Chapter 90 External Soul Bone, Crystal Scale Armor, Part 2. You are listening at NovelFull.audio. With its super strong defense and immunity to damage buffs, Yang was a real headache for any soul master unless they had a significant level advantage or potent mental abilities. Facing him felt impossible. Between the powerful defense of his soul bone armor and its 30% damage reduction, plus his defensive secret techniques, Yang was practically a walking, talking mutated scale beast. It's important to note, the crystal body soul bone skill's damage immunity is fixed. Even a title Douluo's strongest offensive skill would be weakened by 30%, of course. If Yang tried to withstand a title Douluo's strongest attack with his current strength, that 30% damage reduction wouldn't save him. He'd still be toast. How about we just call it crystal scale armor? After a moment, Yang named his external soul bone armor. What about your fourth soul skill? Shui Bing'er asked, glancing at the yellow, purple, and black rings swirling around him. The essence of everything, Jasper, he chanted softly, and his fourth soul ring blazed. As soul power surged, a 3-inch ginseng appeared, carved from the finest jade. Sure enough, after red, orange, and yellow, his fourth soul skill produced a ginseng glowing with green. Adding the fourth soul ring also added a layer of blue lines to the ice fire immortal jade ginseng martial soul, beneath the red, orange, and yellow. So, a condensed soul power shield? Shui Bing'er asked, examining the blue ginseng. The fourth soul skill, Jasper Guardian Ginseng, creates a light of protection when consumed, granting immunity to 30% of physical and energy attacks for 3 minutes. It's only effective if used within 10 days, however, 30% immunity is the maximum. The actual amount depends on the attacker's strength. At my current level, against a 5th ring or higher opponent, the protective light's effectiveness will be less than 30%. It might not even work at all if the power gap is too great. But against 4th ring and below, it provides full 30% immunity. The Jasper Guardian Ginseng wasn't bad, but it wasn't great for Yang, conflicting with the crystal body skill. The 2 damage reduction effects didn't stack, plus, the crystal scale armor's age would increase with his soul power. Eventually, its damage reduction would exceed 30%, if a 30,000-year-old soul bone gave 30% reduction, wouldn't a 100,000-year-old one give 50%, or more? On the other hand, a food-based soul master's martial soul avatar could boost the effects of food soul skills. If he found a way to increase his soul ring's age, the Jasper Guardian Ginseng could become as good as the crystal body. 20 days later, in the frozen far north, 2 ice blue birds clashed in the sky. One was a 7-meter-long ice blue phoenix, radiating nobility and burning with icy flames, this was the Ice Flame Phoenix, a martial soul fusion skill of Mu Yang and Shui Bing'er. The other was a 6-meter wingspan, ice-attributed soul beast, its blue feathers exuding bitter cold. This was a 30,000-year-old frozen bird. Despite the name, this bird wasn't an ultimate ice type. The only soul beast with the ultimate ice attribute was the Ice Jade Emperor Scorpion Ice Emperor, one of the Far North Kings. The Ice and Snow Goddess Snow Emperor, also a Far North King, had ultimate ice and snow, a variation of ultimate ice. Similar, but not the same, the frozen bird fought defensively against the Ice Flame Phoenix and was getting beat. It wasn't just goofing off. There was an 8-ring soul Douluo nearby, but more importantly, its bloodline was being suppressed. The frozen bird was a top-tier ice-based bird, but its bloodline couldn't compare to the Ice Phoenix, the strongest ice bird of all. The Ice Flame Phoenix wasn't just an ice phoenix. It was a fusion of Shui Bing'er's Ice Phoenix and Mu Yang's Ice Flame Holy Shadow martial souls. Chang, as the saying goes, defend for too long, and you'll lose. The phoenix chirped and unleashed a fan-shaped blast of ice flame, hitting the frozen bird head-on. The frozen bird, now covered in strange ice flames, felt a biting cold assaulting its entire body. Trying to fight back with its ice soul power, it froze as frost spread rapidly from the strange blue flames. Its ice resistance, normally strong for a top-tier ice soul beast, was useless against this strange fire. Ka ka ka, that a freezing sound echoed. The panicked frozen bird was encased in ice mid-air, then plummeted to the ground. Boom! The wind howled as the frozen bird, now an ice sculpture, crashed into the snow below. Tiny ice crystals scattered across the landscape. Before it could escape the Ice Flame Phoenix swooped down under Shui Bing'er's guidance. The phoenix opened its beak, and the raging ice flame engulfed the frozen bird. The Ice Flame Phoenix landed next to the bird and continued to bathe it in icy fire, replenishing the flames whenever they began to die out. Soon, the frozen bird, trapped in ice, died from the flames. Countless golden lights flew from the bird's body as a dark, 10,000-year soul ring condensed, adding an unusual color to the white world of ice and snow.